those links back in the chat.
Yeah, I'll be doing that in the
So,
background.
so I've got 4 handouts for you today, and we'll be going through them during the course of the session. Let me share my screen. Right, can everyone see the screen? Cool. Okay, so thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to embark on a journey with you, exploring the dynamics of team resilience. So our guide for this exploration today is a field guide called the Resilient Symphony, which I wrote some months ago. And it looks at team resilience as an orchestration of a symphony to the building of the harmonious function of a team. So that's kind of our main guide for today. There's a number of other handouts as well. I'll point you to them as we go through the session. So this is about how we can use Jung's cognitive functions, our 8 cognitive functions, to foster a resilient, engaged, and self-sustaining team. So 20 years ago, I was part of a high-performing team. I was a learning and development manager at the British Foreign Office based out of the High Commission in Singapore, part of a team of 9 trainers from around the world who were recruited to start up a new initiative for the Foreign Office, the regional training centers. Now, the ambitious goal was to develop more than 15,000 local staff around the world who had never received any kind of professional development in the past. And as a high-performing team, which was constantly under scrutiny, we delivered phenomenal results, building our portfolio from 3 initial programs and 9 trainers to more than 18 programs and I think over 20 trainers over the course of 3 years, developing not just local staff, but diplomatic personnel as well, who weren't initially included in that portfolio. So I was inspired 20 years later. I was kind of reminded earlier this year that it had been 20 years since I was recruited into this team. And I was inspired to write about how we became not just a high-performing team, but a highly resilient one. We were brought together for 7 weeks in London, and we had to bring each other together as a team. So this is about how we engaged ourselves, our customers, kept ourselves going, and ultimately became one of the most successful teams in the FCO. And it all started with a very diverse group of 9 trainers from 9 different countries around the world. So I'm writing a fictionalized account of this journey in a book called The 7 Keynotes of a Resilient Team. What I was also inspired to create was the field guide to look at exactly how we did it. So this presentation looks at these 7 keynotes and how we harmonized as a very diverse, resilient team. And I think, as I remember, we had 9 different personality types in the team as well. So in the Resilient Symphony, I present a comparison between teams and orchestras. So imagine an orchestra where each musician is expertly playing their part, contributing to a magnificent performance. Similarly, in our teams, each member brings unique skills and roles, unique personality types, vital to our collective success. Just as an orchestra's harmony depends on the integration of each instrument, our team's resilience hinges on how well we understand and support each other's roles. Now, if you've ever heard of the Orpheus Orchestra, I think they're based in New Jersey, if I'm not wrong, or New York. They're an example of a high-performing team, which actually functions without a formal leader. They don't have a formal conductor. but they work together as a seamless, resilient, integrated team, which has been very highly successful over the years. So if you'd like, go and Google Orpheus Chamber Orchestra. They're kind of what inspired me as well to put together this idea of a team as a symphony. So at the
And I don't know if
core,
it's intentional, but you're not in presentation mode. We see your whole
I'm
screen.
not.
No,
What do you see?
the whole screen, we see 4 slides on the left and
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, let me see if I can change that. I thought you were seeing my main screen.
I think we are, but it's the whole screen.
Ah, well, that's no good.
Not bad, but I don't think that's what you intended.
No, it wasn't. Is that better?
We need to share again.
Let's see. That's a problem with only having one monitor. Okay, now what do you see?
Same as before.
Hmm.
There's a place usually where we can swap, but I don't know if you're on Apple, so I'm not a big expert of Apple. We can go presentation view or whatever.
How about now?
Not any better for me. Anybody
Are
who's
you
an
seeing
expert and can help?
are you seeing two windows or are you seeing one?
We see on the left, 4 different slides, and then in the middle, the core team resilience, and then on the
That
right,
is
stock images.
so weird. Okay. Let me try again. Got presenter view going. Not sure why that's doing that. So it should be showing you
It's fine,
just
indeed.
the main screen.
It's not changing for us.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, it keeps going back to normal. Let me try slideshow. How about now?
Nah,
No?
no.
Hmm. That's a pain. Well, let me see if I
You
can
need to share a window
enlarge.
instead of your screen.
Yeah.
You need to find the window that is in presentation mode.
Okay. That's going to be a bit tricky.
Alternative is back on the same screen. You just have to make your slide very big and
Hmm.
hide the side menus and reduce the left pane.
Is
Sorry,
that better?
everybody. All my fault.
No, thanks for letting me know, actually. How's that now?
Yeah, it's good enough. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, where was I? So back to the core of team resilience. So essentially teams that are resilient, engaged, sustainable. The Orpheus Chamber Orchestra embodies all of these three pillars. And if you want to know the details about the Orpheus Orchestra, as I said, there's a series of videos on YouTube that illustrate their journey. So essentially, the holy grail for successful teams is not just to be high performing. High performance can only be sustained so far. If a team keeps pushing the envelope and bringing you high performing results over and over again, there's a point where they eventually burn out, unless they're also resilient. And for a team to be resilient, they also have to be engaged. And this has to be sustainable over the long term. So these are the three pillars. And what we found with our team was that we were high performing, we became high performing because we had a lot of high performing individuals, but we noticed that we were heading for burnout very quickly. So we needed to take action fairly early in our journey to make sure that we were resilient over time, because we were in the game for at least 4 years. The project was going on for at least 4 years. The training centers are still there now, but what we had to do was going to take a series of 3 to 4 years. So we needed to ensure that we built our resilience and kept our resilience and kept it sustainable. So at the heart of my book, The Resilient Symphony, is the concept of emotional resilience. So this is not merely about enduring challenges, but thriving amidst them. It's about problem solving with creativity, fostering relationships built on trust, adapting swiftly to change, innovating continuously, and prioritizing the well-being of each team members. So these elements are the lifeline that sustain our teams through turbulent times, much like a resilient tree that stands firm regardless of the weather. Now, beyond the obvious emotional and psychological benefits of developing a resilient team, there's a compelling business case for nurturing team resilience as well. So teams that embody resilience experience significantly reduced turnover costs. They're more productive, not just in terms of output, but also in the quality and the innovation of their work. So this not only gives us a competitive edge, but also cements our position in the market over the long term. It's an investment in our future, ensuring that sustainability and success through the ever-changing landscapes of our modern workforce. Now, let me introduce what I call the 7 keynotes of team resilience. So these are what the 3 pillars hold up. So these keynotes act as our musical scores. They guide us in creating a team environment that not only endures, but also flourishes in the face of challenges. So while each keynote plays a crucial role in the symphony of resilience, what we'll do is focus on just a few of the keynotes that are instrumental in orchestrating our team's success. So we have here building trust, embracing change, fostering collaboration, developing emotional intelligence, celebrating wins, and learning from failure. So I want to delve with some detail into each of the keynotes and look at how to fine-tune our teams for peak performance. So the first keynote is trust.
Sorry, Brian, just to double check, we're on slide 8, the core of team resilience. Is that correct?
You should be on keynote 1, building a foundation of trust.
So I'm sorry, it's not moving.
What do you see now?
No, we're on your core presentation, so you need to get out of presentation mode and move like that. There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you move down this one, we're going to be good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks, Renee. Okay, so we're looking at keynote 1, which is building a foundation of trust. Now, we understand that trust is the foundation on which our symphony is built. And like musicians in an orchestra who rely on each other's timing and precision, team members must trust one another to perform the roles effectively. So strategies such as sharing personal histories to foster empathy, maintaining consistent communication to avoid misunderstandings, and setting clear expectations to ensure accountability all contribute to building a sturdy foundation of trust. When trust resonates within the team, the music of collaboration plays more beautifully than ever. This is probably one of the hardest things to achieve. And once you have it, it requires constant maintenance to ensure that it isn't lost. And it's not automatic. You may have pockets of trust within a team at any one time, but what you want really is full vulnerability-based trust across the entire team for this to work. And we started out with just pockets of trust within the team, but we eventually had to build it so that everyone on the team actually trusted everyone else. Now, the second keynote is on embracing change. Now, this underscores the importance of adaptability in our constantly evolving work environment. Teams have to learn to adapt to new challenges and opportunities, and encouraging flexibility, maintaining open feedback loops, engaging in scenario planning, for example, to anticipate future changes. These are all critical practices that enable teams to perform harmoniously, even as the music around them changes. Now, third keynote is fostering collaboration. So recognizing that, like a puzzle, each piece or team member is essential to complete the picture. Collaboration is the harmony that arises when each member plays their part while aligned towards a shared goal. So implementing conflict resolution mechanisms to address and learn from disagreements, and establishing peer mentorship programs to leverage the diverse strengths within the team ensures that our symphony plays in perfect harmony, with each note complementing the others. And the seventh keynote that I wanted to focus on was celebrating wins and learning from failure. So I notice a lot of teams tend not to celebrate their wins. They tend to move on from project to project, from accomplishment to accomplishment, without actually looking back and stopping and actually celebrating their wins. And then at the same time, sometimes when they fail, they tend not to look back and use that failure story as a learning opportunity. So holding post-mortem meetings, dissecting both the successes and the failures, and sharing those failure stories as learning opportunities are vital practices that keep the team motivated and resilient. So those are the 7 keynotes that I have for team resilience. Now, how does type play a part in this? Well, I wanted to look particularly at the 8 cognitive functions and their impact on team resilience. I wanted to look also at type as a whole. And the first of the handouts should be in the chat still. Now, that's 7 ways in which type benefits team resilience. So if you look at that handout very quickly, you'll see that we look at enhanced communication. So understanding each other's types actually helps us to communicate better, understanding that we have different communication styles. Optimizing team roles so that we're playing to each other's strengths, and focusing and noticing our blind spots. Improved conflict resolution, so understanding what triggers us in conflict. Having increased empathy, so understanding, you are a different type, so you might actually be very different in the way you think. Looking at leveraging all of the different types in the team for strategic problem solving, attacking the problem in different ways, and actually understanding that different things motivate team members in different ways, different things engage team members in different ways. And understanding type ultimately prevents burnout, it prevents turnover if we understand each other a little better. Now, in terms of the cognitive functions, there is a handout as well on the impact of team resilience. So looking at the strengths and challenges of the 8 cognitive functions and their impact on team resilience. And I wanted to do a little breakout exercise. So if you have that handout now, what I'd like to do is break you out into, how many people do we have? I think we'll do 3 rooms, Viv. If we have 3 breakout rooms, and if you grab that scenario handout for yourselves. Viv, do we have the, yep, do we have the handouts?
Yeah, the handouts are there. Lynn just doesn't have it because she arrived just slightly behind everybody else. But if
Okay.
Lynn, I'll put them in whilst you're in the breakout room. If somebody could help Lynn whilst they're in the room, are we good to open the breakout rooms?
Yeah, we're good to open the breakout rooms. So the breakout rooms are fairly random, but if you wind up in breakout room 1, use scenario 1. If you wind up in breakout room 2, use scenario 2. And if you wind up in room 3, please use scenario 3. And oh, Viv, you haven't sent them yet, have you?
Oh, I have. Should I bring them back?
Bring them back, please.
Sorry. Sorry, that was a bit quick. Oops.
That's all right. A few technical challenges.
I'll be back within 60 seconds.
I think I just left everyone confused. I'm not sure why my PowerPoints are doing that.
I'll just pause.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So can we get a flavor of your discussions in each of the rooms, please? If we looked at room 1, would someone like to speak up on how they saw themselves solving that challenge and how their cognitive functions played a role? Anyone from room 1?
I'm not sure. Already room 1, so I'm
So
pay
Daniel,
attention.
Heidi, Joe, Karen.
So room 1, we have the conclusion. I'm the ENFP, so we will start with brainstorming the ideas, and then Karen, the INFJ, and we'll narrow down the ideas. And I have to look where our team members. Catherine. Oh, where are they? and that
Daniel, INTP.
Karen and Daniel, yeah, they're Daniel. They are the TI dominant, so they will find the logic, and Joe will focus on the practical part, and Lynn will responsible for executing it and make sure everybody is happy. So we use our dominant function. So that
Excellent.
Okay,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Thank you. How about room 2? Sue, that was your room, wasn't it?
Yes, it was indeed. Yeah. So we had 2 INFPs, an ENFP, and me as an ESTJ. Frankly, quite a nightmare for this ESTJ.
Imagine yourself in a team with all those NPs.
No, I'm very good now. Also, it's really early in the morning, and I'm really perky, and you're all at the end of your day. So I'm afraid this team got rather a lot of my of the airtime. So I would have the framework, I'd have the plan, I'd have it all sorted, which would be great, and I'd much rather be in a leadership position. And then they would come up with lots of the INFPs are saying, well, you've got to get the why sorted. And then Signa was coming up with lots of possibilities from her expert at intuiting. So one of my questions to them was, if you've got like 5 days to do this, at what point do you stop doing the why and you give me a chance to actually do something? And they sort of said, well, in the last half day. And I was like, no, I can't do that.
We had a
So
lot
I'd
of
quite
fun.
like to be there at the beginning. Yeah, Signe, what? Please add in.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. And suddenly 15 minutes were over. So we had a lot of fun in 4.5 days.
Yeah, but
So-
I was stressing. They were still talking about possibilities. And then at the time when I got my plan, then Signe would come up with another 10 possibilities that I couldn't possibly fit into my plan in time. And then Renee and Roy were still on, why are we doing it? So, well, I thought we worked out the why, because that's environmental sustainability, which I'm thoroughly in for. So now we've worked out the why, could we please do something with it? Because that would be great.
And we had the best teamwork.
Yeah, but the other thing I'm terribly bad at is introverted intuiting, which is the 5-year plan. So we were asked in our team to look at a 5-year plan, which I have zero ability to do. I have no crystal ball whatsoever. So working out 5-year plan, a 5-month plan would be better, because anything could happen. So the 5-year plan is a total impossibility for me to do. And if I was desperately asked to do it, I'd just make it up.
I
And
wonder
then-
if a 5-year plan is too long these days, because things are moving so rapidly.
Yeah.
You know, 5 years
Yeah.
is too far into the future.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah. So there we go. I don't know if any of my lovely colleagues want to add anything more, Roy or Renee.
I mean, they were all 5-year plans were always a speculation. I mean, Bill Schutz said to me, Roy, plans are only to know what you're deviating from. So, you know, it wasn't a plan that you'd implement. It was to give direction.
Yeah, if only somebody told me that.
Okay, thanks, room 2. So room 3, Shirley, Elizabeth, Paula, and Toby.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk if everyone's okay with that. Yeah, we have two, in terms of dominant functions, two extroverted intuitives, two introverted feelers, and one introverted thinker. So we realized very quickly that basically we cover, in terms of dominant function, only 3 out of the 8 possible functions, and therefore we were a team with lots of blind spots. So we realized that we would probably have to do 2 things. One would be the dominant functions alone would obviously not be sufficient. We'd need to look at auxiliaries and potentially inferior functions to see what we can leverage there. Another might be that we might need to look for external resources outside of the team to cover off some of our blind spots. Another thought was to really look at our learned experiences, so not just our natural personality preferences, but equally also our learned experiences. So, you know, I come from a strategy consulting background, so it was basically a strategy consulting case in which I would probably need to leverage learned experiences around introverted intuition and extroverted thinking and go into my ENTJ mode. And we were quite frank that we decided we had to be really, really honest with each other about what we could do and what we couldn't do, get that foundation of trust in that you talked about, so that we could share, you know, credibility, our vulnerabilities, what we're going to be good at, you know, what are our expertise, what types of projects we've done before, what we could leverage there in terms of covering off, you know, the emotional intelligence, the cultural intelligence elements of it, as well as the rational bits, which would probably have fallen more into my area. But in terms of the introverted feelers, very much around the emotional intelligence, because it was about leveraging lots of different stakeholders and aligning lots of different values and stuff. So we were trying to work out how we would best cover off the blind spots so that, and, you know, deal with the fact that we were a little bit of a skewed team. If we just worked with dominant functions, covering 3 out of 8 functions would mean we would fail.
Yeah.
Spectacularly, probably.
Would you compensate with your other functions though, rather than primarily relying on your dominant functions?
No, I think that was the whole point, was that we couldn't rely on the dominant functions because it would be
Yeah.
too skewed. So literally that we'd start by being really honest about what we're good at, what we're naturally good at, what we've learned how to do, how good we are. So being really we talked about radical candor and just being really honest about what we're actually good at. You know, what can we bring to the table? What can we not bring to the table? And where are the gaps, so that we could cover those off relatively quickly, either by playing roles that didn't necessarily play into our strengths. And we talked about, you know, failing fast and learning from it quickly, and going through lots of iterations. So, you know, the trust base would be essential for us to even have the chance to hit the ground running, and actually to work towards, you know, improving as a team. But we wouldn't naturally be a perfect team, because, as I say, we were in many ways too similar in terms of our personalities. We brought too many similar strengths to the table, and that we would have to actually, you know, work with some of our less capable functions, and possibly also play certain roles that are not necessarily playing to our talents, and do that quite with the awareness of that. So really managing much more around the scarcity of certain functions, as opposed to the abundance of certain functions, so that we didn't actually just completely lose the plot.
What we found in our team, we had one ESTJ, we had a number of ENFPs, and we had a whole mix of some of the other types. The biggest clashes came from the ENFPs and the ESTJs, as in they clashed quite frequently with each other. And it was a result of some, you know, very basic misunderstandings that took place, you know. And we were together for 7 weeks, and you're packing in 9 people who, you know, are trying to learn the material, trying to present, trying to, you know, get to know everyone else. I think the biggest clashes came and went. And at the time, I think because we understood type, we managed to get through that. So looking at, you know, some of the teams that I've worked with, I've seen a lot of those clashes come from the TJs versus the FPs. And sometimes they're not quite sure how to get out of that conflict. So it was an interesting situation to throw all of you into. Okay, thanks for doing that. Just going to go back to sharing the screen. So finally, I've got some strategies for leveraging type dynamics, and there's a handout for this. So we're not going to go through this, but this is something for you to read through. Finally, so looking at the interplay of the cognitive functions and team resilience, and of whole type and team resilience, it is akin to a well-orchestrated symphony. So each team member bringing their own unique type to it plays a very integral role in creating that beautiful music. So by understanding and leveraging the cognitive dynamics of our personality types, we can start to build teams which are more holistic and adaptable, but also capable of facing the different complexities of today's work environment. My goal is to help teams use their cognitive functions and their personalities to the best of their ability, so that they can actually build themselves into resilient teams. Finally, questions on the work that I'm currently doing with teams, and any questions that you might have on the presentation itself.
What did you do, Brian, to get the ENFPs and the ESTJs to bond and build trust, etc.?
A lot of work. In fact, we had the one ESTJ who was from New York, and the ENFP from London. You know, they weren't talking for about 3 or 4 days. It really took a lot of maturity on both of their parts to actually come back and say, "Now, we don't have to be best friends, but we do need to work together, and we're going to be working together over the next few years. We've got to find a way to make this work." So I think it was the maturity of the trainers as well. And we were all trainers. So we knew that we had to get it done. Daniel, go ahead. Daniel, you're muted somehow.
What a pity, but you can hear me now, right?
Gotcha now.
Sorry, okay. I'm interested in, what do you think, how many different types do you prefer to have in a team to cover all the blind spots? Would you say, like, because we also, Team 1 noticed that we do not only have like the hero function or the auxiliary, but a lot more functions, and we can play many of them probably. So what do you think, what makes a team well-rounded usually? Is it 3 people? Is it 4? Do you really prefer to have one hero for each function?
Ideally, I'd like to have all of the heroes on that team, but practically it's never been the case. And it really depends on the sort of team that you're working with. So I was working with a senior leadership team from a bank, where the majority of types were introverted sensors. And you had an introverted thinker as the team leader. So there were a lot of missing functions there, but somehow they managed to muddle through. I mean, a lot of it had to do with experience. A lot of it had to do with maturity. Somehow they muddled through it. But I mean, it's never perfect. Shirley says, how do you deal with antisocial personalities who do not want to build trust-based relationships and come with hidden agendas? They usually find themselves leaving the team, actually. Either they're shown the door, or they get frustrated that they eventually don't get their way, and they show themselves the door. But where they do stay, if you have a really narcissistic personality, I've seen it cause a lot of damage in teams, and you lose a lot of the people around you, but that narcissistic individual tends to stay. Catherine?
I was curious how you thought focusing on the 8 functions helped keep the team engaged. Because you mentioned, we talked about sustainability and resilience, but I'm interested in engagement.
Making sure that everyone was heard, and making sure that everyone's voice was included in the discussions. I think and when everyone realized that, they could make themselves heard and that their point of view was taken into account, it did keep people engaged. Again, it was a mature group, so we gave each other the space and we gave each other the room to be heard. So I think being able to be heard, being able to have your opinion count, even though it may not necessarily have gone into the final mix, I mean, whatever solution you provided, that was enough to keep people engaged. That was enough to keep people working on solutions. Just being heard sometimes was enough. Sue.
I was just going to say, first of all, I love all your graphics, Brian. I think they're great, and quite how you put all those together, but they're terrific. But also, I particularly like the chameleon on embracing change. And I think that very often the SJs in particular are thought of as not enjoying change. But one of the things that I say about SJs in the change environment is that as long as you have a pivot point, as long as you have something to hold on to, in that sort of instance with the chameleon, as long as you've got a branch to hold on to, we're perfectly fine with change. So if you tell us what stays the same, then dealing with the change around us is so much better. So that image of the chameleon was a really lovely one, particularly for SJs, I think.
I agree. So, I mean, when I was running a change program, what we found that if you gave the SJs enough information, if you told them exactly why certain changes were happening, they would accept it. I mean, what they didn't want was, the imposed change without any reason, or the imposed change without them playing a role in it.
Mm,
That's when you got resistance.
sure.
Have we got any other questions? If not, I see I'm bang on time. So I actually am running a 9-week team resilience group coaching program. The type portion will be a bonus module set around that, probably at the end of it. But the 9-week program takes you through each of the 7 keynotes. And then the final one is around sustainability. It's around how you sustain that team resilience. So if you're interested, if you know anyone who's interested in attending the group coaching program, there's my email, drop me a line, and I'll be happy to help. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending today. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And I'd like to wish everyone a pleasant conference for the rest of the weekend.
Super. Thank you so much, Brian. Super interesting. I'm going to go now and read the handouts. You've got me intrigued. So I'm very much looking forward to reading those handouts and reflecting on what you said. So thank you. And thanks for everybody that's attended. So that's a wrap for this evening. Some people might have a nice evening and a glass of wine. For others, it's the start of their day. So whichever it is for you, enjoy. So tomorrow's sessions resume at 12 o'clock. And so 12 to 12:30 is a networking and coffee session with Sarah and the board members. And then we get going at 12:30 with our keynote speech from Dario. So very much look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And thank you very much for your participation and a very enjoyable session. Thanks again, Brian. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.